Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Putty, and welcome back for another episode of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. This is the April show. This is the one night of the year that everyone on the roster just fights for their own little slice of Americana. We are here for MAW Americana. Our main event of the evening is going to be a steel cage tag team match between the Dynamite Express and the Ring Generals for the Mid-Atlantic Regional Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Also on the card tonight, we have another Coastal Zone tag team match between Devil May Care and the team of Nate DeMarcus and Flamberg. Now, you may have noticed I'm doing these pretty much every show now. I do want to make it kind of a part of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. I'm going to keep the name the same. It's a Coastal Zone tag team match. Because I'm honoring, I don't know who exactly it is, I've forgotten, but that guy in the diary, and I do like that it came from there, and it came from Coastal Zone. It was brought here to MAW, but I want to make it a regular part. If not every show, pretty much every show, I think, should have a Coastal Zone tag team match, because not only does it get guys a lot of work, that's really good for a developmental company like we are, because they just wrestle a lot, and they get a lot of skills from that. But it also saves money, and it's a cool idea, in my opinion. Based on that saving money thing, I also wanted to show you guys that we made a lot of money last month, because of course the main event was a Coastal Zone tag team match. It meant that we could have, I think it was 5 matches on the card, 3 of which used the same people, so it meant that we paid a lot less in worker fees, getting a lot of ticket sales right now. Everything's looking good. In fact, if we were making that amount of money every single month, we could bring the dojo back. It only costs about $25,000 to open a dojo. It'll obviously be a zero reputation dojo, which will kind of suck, but the earlier I can get a dojo back, the better, in my opinion, because it's like, the dojo is a part of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. I really want the dojo to be here. I want to bring it back as soon as I possibly can. So as soon as we're making comfortably $6,000 a month in profit, because $5,000 was roughly the maintenance costs back in the day, if we're making $6,000 of profit a month, then I will pretty happily open up the dojo again. So just letting you guys know that. Also, you might notice that American Elemental 2 has 1 appearance left on his contract. Don't worry, I'm not going to be letting it run out. The problem is one of our owner goals right now, for those of you who've been probably wondering in the comments, I haven't had a comment like this yet, but I bet somebody's asked what's been going on with the owner goals. We haven't failed too many, although this one right here, the under 35 in toughness, this one's new. Obviously the old hot prospect. Oh, look, it's only 2 days. Nice, awesome. But this one right here causes problems with Acid and American Elemental the first time, which is why we're down to average in approval rating. I thought, especially American Elemental 2, but also Acid were worth breaking that owner goal for. And the reason, I didn't even notice this 2-day thing, but the reason why I haven't renewed American Elemental's contract yet, and the reason why I was waiting to do it, and I will be doing it, don't worry, is because he's actually, as you can see, he's really fucking good, by the way. He's actually at 35 right now. You might be thinking, well, how is he failing the toughness goal then? Which he is, by the way. And the reason is because he's 34.5 or higher, and so it shows as 35. But it's actually 34.7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. So I was waiting for him, since we're not the only people he works for. He's, like I said this a couple episodes ago, he's working with Black Canvas Grappling right now, and those guys are tough as fuck. And he's having probably a great tour out there. Look at that, ridiculously good stuff from him. Because he's doing stuff like that over there, his toughness should be getting better every match, and if we let him work a couple of tour dates over there, he would probably get above 35, and then I could sign him. But I just found out that the owner goal expires in 2 days, so in 2 days I'll be re-signing him. Spoiler, he's not on this show. Aside from that, I don't think there's much else to talk about, other than we're in the Meccan Auditorium in front of probably a packed crowd of 800 people. Aside from that, let's just get into the show, shall we? The Dynamite Express start in the interview area. And they and they're there, and Sid Collier gets on the mic and he says, you know, we have been fighting as a tag team for 8 years now. And he looks at Cameron to see if that's right, and Cameron kind of just shakes his head, or nods his head, like, yeah, 8 years. You know, last month we were told that we would relish an opportunity to go into a steel cage match with Dean Waldorf and Marv Stadler. You're damn right we relish that opportunity, you see, because we've guaranteed that this is the last title reign of the Dynamite Express, and we've guaranteed that it will be the greatest title reign in the history of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. And if you think we are scared of the Ring Generals, well, you are damn wrong. Because tonight, we will show the world why we are the greatest tag team in the history of this company, and we are the greatest tag team in the history of this territories. These titles mean so much to us. So much that it has held us together through some of the toughest times of our lives. And tonight, we will do anything to retain them. So if you think being locked in a cage with two of the greatest wrestlers in this country scares us, we are depraved and we are animals. And if you are locked in a cave, locked in a cave. If you are locked in a cage with us, you better be scared of us. Because if you think we're nasty, if you think we're dastardly when we don't have 6 foot of steel around us, well, you are going to be surprised by how nasty we can get inside a steel cage. Because no, we don't have access to weapons under the ring. We don't have access to weapons at ringside. We have access to weapons all around us. We have access to one giant weapon. And tonight, we are going to shred. We are going to brutalize. We are going to victimize the Ring Generals. And tonight, just like every other night, we will come out on top. Because we are the best in the world. Fired up Sid Collier, fired up Ring Generals, not Ring Generals, the Dynamite Express for the main event of the evening. As we open up with the first match in our Coastal Zone Tag Team match this evening, Acid 2 defeats Nate DeMarcus in a very good match. Good job, Acid. Acid Rain Bomb. I think, that's what I've been trying to think of this all week. I knew that Acid 2 had a tag team in the original MAW series, and I just remembered it was Toxic Smoothies with Austin Smooth. That was a good tag team. Well, maybe this tag team with Stuntman will be just as good as we move on to Vinny Cruz and Scythe. They come out and Vinny Cruz says, last month we announced, and we made it official that this is Scythe's yard now. I think it's time to rub that point home. It's time to rub that point in, to make sure everyone knows it. So tonight we're issuing an open challenge. Just to anybody on the roster, come and take on my monster. And see if you can fare. See if you can deal with him. Come on, don't be scared. It's just the demon. And Papa Dan comes out, ready, willing to take on Scythe. George Wolf was the man who claimed it was his yard. Papa Dan, a good friend of George Wolf, probably taking umbrage to the fact that Scythe is running around saying that he owns the place. Papa Dan versus Scythe gets a 43D as Scythe destroys Papa Dan for the second time this year. Remember, he did this back at the Ripcord Invitational. And once again, how can he do this to our frail, lovely Papa Dan? How can he do this, Scythe? The monster, the bastard. Disgraceful. But Scythe does indeed pick up the win as I think we move into our next round of the Coastal Zone Tag Team match. Another great match another great match for our standards. It's decent, but whatever. Flamberg defeats Stuntman with a smart drive to make it 1-1 in the series. A great performance from Stuntman here. And I think we move on to a promo as the Architect comes out to a new entrance, extravagant entrance. I think the lights go off and he has a ring announcer announce him in a very Hollywood voice, I guess, he's announcing a stage actor or something. And the Architect just comes out to the middle of the ring and he says, I am the in-house celebrity of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. I am the guy who sells all the tickets, the guy on the billboard. And tonight I have decided to grace you with my presence. I'm one of the greatest and slickest technical wrestlers Mid-Atlantic Wrestling has ever seen, and I think I am the best. I am, this show is called Americana. If anybody represents America in pro wrestling, I think it's me. I'm successful. I'm well built. I'm a technical wrestler. I don't think anybody represents America quite like me. And then the all-American boy, Eric Lee, comes out, taking umbrage to the Architect's statement. And a ref gets out there, and we've got an impromptu match between the two. And in a 44D, the Architect defeats Eric Lee after blatantly cheating. Maybe I guess in this one, since it's a submission, he uses the ropes for leverage. like Ric Flair used to in the figure four, just holding himself up on the ropes while he locks him in with the blueprint. And he does indeed defeat the All-American Boy. Two guys who I consider to be really high up on the card, Eric Lee and the Architect, but both guys that have suffered a lot of defeats over the last year. So it's a good match for those two, and I think they both came out of this looking good. The Architect gets a victory, but Eric Lee lost by cheating, so, you know, it's a solid match to move both guys forward. And we move into the finale of our Coastal Zone Tag Team match this evening, as Devil May Care defeat Flamberg and Nate DeMarcus in about 12 minutes when Acid defeats Flamberg with an Acid Rain Bomb. One of the reasons why Flamberg and Nate DeMarcus and other people are going to be thrown into these Coastal Zone Tag Team matches is because I'm looking for tag teams that I can have as individuals. Guys who can work these Coastal Zone tag matches, but can not be full-time tag teams. And one of the things that I love about the indies is finding these tag team chemistries and making them into tag teams. And sadly, the series hasn't had a lot of that because we haven't been able to do a lot of tag team matches with random people because we just haven't had the money. But Coastal Zone tag team matches allow us to do that. Sadly, on this occasion, we found bad chemistry, which is the opposite of what I wanted to do. But it's a good moment to bring up the point of them, so that's good. And one of the singles matches earlier probably did really well. I think it did better than this, so it'll be good to see which of these two are better. Nate, obviously, a local lad, but Flamberg was part of the Hot Prospects tournament a couple of years ago. So, you know, both lads are in-house, I suppose. And before the match, Dean Waldorf and Marv Stadler in the interview area, and they say, you know, we know how depraved you guys are. That's where all your strength comes from, and we don't mean that as an insult. This is Marv. We don't mean that as an insult. Your depravity, your raw desire to be the best and to do anything it takes to be called the best. That's what makes you guys great, and you are. You are great wrestlers. You know, there are people up north, there are people out east that wouldn't call you that because of your style and because of the way you work. We disagree. You are great wrestlers, but you're going to be locked inside a cage with better wrestlers. Not only that, you're going to be locked inside the cage with my partner, Deadly Dean Waldorf. And if you don't think he knows how to use a cage to grind you down and tear you apart, then I'm afraid you're wrong. He's a monster, and you better be afraid of Dean Waldorf. I'm just going to throw you into the cage a couple times. Dean Waldorf is going to tear you to shreds. And in the main event of the evening, the finale to one of the greatest tag team rivalries in territorial wrestling history. In a 55C-, the Ring Generals defeat the Dynamite Express in a cage match in 23 minutes and 1 second when Dean Waldorf defeated Sid Collier with a Waldorf salad toss. This is brutal. This is a slugfest. Bell rings and they just brawl. Absolute brawl. Because it's a tornado tag. Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure whether I wanted it to be a tornado tag or not, because I know some old school cage matches were traditional tag with just... And our cage is obviously just set up. You know, like, it's not lowered or anything. We set it up with the four parts of it getting attached before the match with a little bit of setup while the Ring Generals cutting their promo. And I could have done it tag. I think I want it to be tornado, though. I think I just want all hell to break loose during this tag match and the two teams just to brutalize each other back and forth. And like promised, Dean just using the cage, stretching somebody with their face, with stretching Cam maybe in some sort of hold with his face just plunged into the cage and just rubbing it back and forth. And I imagine Sid is doing similar things, just ripping Marv Stadler from left to right on the cage. You know, it's just brutal. Like, these two don't hate each other, but their desire to be the best has brought the absolute violence out of them both, and out of all four of them really, but both teams, as they just absolutely lay into each other tonight. Them brutal shots, vicious stuff. There's years taken off of their careers, surely, in this match. And both teams working really well together. There's no dissension between the Dynamite Express. The ring generals are as crisp as usual. It is the pinnacle for both of these teams of tag team professional wrestling. They're working in tandem. They're working in together, and they're just having one hell of a 23-minute encounter where they're just not giving an inch. And that's what I like to think the last 3 minutes are. It's just strike after strike, maybe a brainbuster from Marv, Cam just doing something, Dean and Sid doing some sort of technical stretch with some escapes and stuff, but nobody giving an inch. Everybody just refusing to give up. Like, if you get knocked down, you get back up again. If you're put in a hold, you escape. You get to the ropes, you get to the cage, and you pull yourself out. Because, of course, you get to the ropes, it's not a rope break. So you've got to grab onto that cage, and you've got to pull yourself out of that hold. And it's just this vicious, brutal encounter between these two tag teams. But in the end, Dean's just better on the night. And in fact, in a lot of ways, you do have to respect the Dynamite Express's wrestling ability across this entire feud, but at the same time, you do have to look at every encounter they've had, and you've got to realize that on any occasion where the Dynamite Express haven't cheated, the Generals have won. And let's not to disparage the Dynamite Express in any way, because they have lived up to expectations, and they've grown so much during this feud, and they are great professional wrestlers, as the Ring General said. But you have to believe, and the evidence does show, that if there's no equalizer, if there's no cheating involved, then the Ring Generals, and they're great, they're so good, are just the better team. And they are now the Mid-Atlantic Regional Tag Team Champions for the first time. They have now won the Pittsburgh titles, they've won the New York titles, they've won the World Tag Team titles, they've won the Sam Keith Classic Tournament, and finally they have won the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team titles. One of the most decorated tag teams in the history of the territories have made a return here to the Mid-Atlantic and have won the titles. And I didn't put an angle in for this, but I like to think after the match the Ring Generals celebrate for a little bit, then they take a little bow to the Dynamite Express, and they leave them in the middle of the ring on their own, because of course, whether or not they're going to stick to their word is unknown. But remember that they did promise that at the end of this tag team title reign, this 4-year tag team title reign, just to remind you guys, they would disband. And there is kind of an air in the ring as Sid and Cameron look at each other and they kind of hug, they shake hands, that this is probably over. Crazy. End of an era in a lot of ways. Curtain call. Fantastic cage match to end off our show, though. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Check out the rest of the series. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're feeling especially generous and particularly like the episode, go ahead and check out the link to my Patreon in the description. If you want a creative input on the series, check out my Twitter. That's the first place I tend to go to. The link to that is also in the description. In the next episode, we are at Old School Rules. Nothing announced. Blank slate. Tune in for some exciting Mid-Atlantic wrestling action. Please do. I'll see you guys then.